What if everything you've been told about life, right, wrong, purpose, just vanished? No safety net, no instructions, just you staring at a blank page. That's the wild, thrilling chaos Friedrich Nietzsche dives into with his philosophy in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. This isn't some dusty old book talk. It's a radical rethink of how we live, straight from the 1880s, when Nietzsche saw the world shifting and said, let's figure this out. In this video, we're breaking down his 5 big ideas, ideas that challenge everything, and how the Nazis later twisted them into something ugly. Nietzsche wrote Thus Spoke Zarathustra between 1883 and 1885. He was a German philosopher who saw religion losing its hold. Science was on the rise and people were questioning old beliefs. He didn't just sit back. He asked, what happens when the foundations crumble? His philosophy isn't about rules or comfort. It's about facing that void and building something new. We're covering 5 key concepts he developed: God is dead, the Übermensch, eternal recurrence, will to power, and rejecting traditional morality. Then we'll see how the Nazis misused them. Number 1, the death of God. Nietzsche's first big idea is God is dead. This isn't about a literal death. It's about society. He saw that by the late 1800s, religion wasn't the ultimate authority anymore. For centuries, it gave people purpose, morals, and certainty. But science, reason, and doubt were chipping away at it. God, the symbol of absolute truth, was fading. He didn't celebrate this or mourn it. He said it's a fact we have to deal with. If religion's gone, there's no one to tell us what life means. That's both a problem and a chance. We could fall into despair, feeling lost without a guide, or we could take it as freedom to create our own meaning. Nietzsche thought most people weren't ready for this. They'd cling to old habits or drift aimlessly. His philosophy starts here. The old system's dead, so we need something new. It's the groundwork for everything else, he says. Number 2, the Übermensch. With God out of the picture, Nietzsche says we should aim higher. He contrasts 2 futures, the last man and the Übermensch. The last man is lazy, content with a small, easy life, no ambition. They're fine just getting by, avoiding struggle. The Übermensch is the opposite. It's not a race or a ruler. It's an individual who overcomes themselves. Nietzsche means pushing past your limits, fear, doubt, habits, to become something greater. It's not about being better than others. It's about being better than you were. He saw humanity as a work in progress, not the end goal. This takes effort. You have to question what you've been taught, make your own values, and live by them. It's tough because there's no blueprint. You're the architect. Nietzsche believed most people wouldn't do this. They'd settle for comfort. The Übermensch is his call to rise above that. Number 3, eternal recurrence. What if your life repeated forever? Every choice, every moment, good and bad, on an endless loop. He doesn't say it's true. It's a thought experiment. Could you say yes to that? It's a way to judge how you live. If the idea scares you, maybe your life's off track. If you could embrace it, you're aligned with something deeper. He wants you to face this question head on. Is your life worth living again and again? This isn't about fate. It's about attitude. Nietzsche pushes you to live so fully that you'd accept the repeat. It's a test of courage and honesty. He thought most people would dodge it, but accepting it means owning your existence, flaws and all. Number 4, will to power. This isn't about dominating others. It's the drive inside you to grow and shape your life. Nietzsche saw it as the core of existence. Plants reach for sunlight, animals adapt, humans create. Everything's pushing to express itself. He didn't mean power like a king or a boss. It's personal. Overcoming obstacles, building something meaningful. Old systems like religious humility told people to stay small. Nietzsche says no. Use that drive to become who you're meant to be. It's about action. You don't just sit there. You move, you strive. He thought this was natural, but society often buries it with rules. His philosophy is about tapping into that energy and letting it guide you. Number 5, rejection of traditional morality. Nietzsche rejects traditional morality. He calls it slave morality. Think of ideas like be humble, don't stand out, or feel bad for others. He says these come from people who fear power and change. He's not against morals entirely, just ones that hold you back. He wants you to ditch guilt and pity and craft values that fit your life. Traditional morality says weakness is good. Nietzsche says strength and growth are better. This isn't about being cruel, it's about being honest. Don't live by someone else's code if it doesn't work for you. He saw this as freeing but hard. Most people stick to what's familiar. How Nazi misuse of Nietzsche's philosophy. Now let's dig deep into how the Nazis misused Nietzsche's philosophy. He died in 1900, decades before the Nazi Party formed in the 1920s. He wasn't around to see it, and he'd have hated them. He despised nationalism, militarism, and anti-Semitism. Yet they latched onto his ideas and twisted them beyond recognition. Here's how it happened and why it's a gross distortion. First, Nietzsche's sister, Elisabeth Förster Nietzsche, played a huge role. After his mental collapse in 1889, he couldn't write or speak for himself. Elisabeth took control of his works and legacy. She was a hardcore nationalist and anti-Semite, married to Bernhard Förster, who ran an Aryan colony project in Paraguay that failed. When Nietzsche died, she started editing his unpublished notes into a book called The Will to Power. He never finished or approved it, but she shaped it to fit her views, adding a tone of aggression and superiority he didn't intend. By the 1930s, she was cozying up to the Nazis. In 1934, she met Adolf Hitler, gave him Nietzsche's walking stick, and turned the Nietzsche archives in Weimar into a propaganda hub. She died in 1935, but her influence stuck. The Nazis cherry-picked the Übermensch and turned it into their master race myth. Nietzsche's Übermensch is about personal growth, an individual overcoming themselves to create their own meaning. It's not racial or collective, but the Nazis, obsessed with Aryan supremacy, spun it into a biological ideal, a blonde, blue-eyed superhuman ruling over lesser races. They ignored Nietzsche's focus on the individual. He hated herd mentality, and the Nazi mass movement was exactly that. In Beyond Good and Evil, he even called Jews the strongest, toughest, and purest race in Europe, a total clash with Nazi ideology. They did the same with The Will to Power. Nietzsche meant it as an inner drive, life's push to grow and assert itself. The Nazis made it about domination, military conquest, racial hierarchy, raw violence. Think of their propaganda films glorifying war or the SS cult of strength. That's miles from Nietzsche's idea of personal creative power. He wasn't about crushing others. He wanted people to master themselves. But the Nazis loved the phrase. It sounded tough, so they ran with it. His rejection of Christianity also got hijacked. Nietzsche saw it as slave morality, elevating weakness over strength, which fit the Nazi push to replace churches with their own ideology. They built a quasi-religion around Hitler, with rallies and symbols mimicking spiritual vibes. But Nietzsche's critique was philosophical, not a call for genocide or state worship. He mocked German culture too, calling it shallow in works like Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Yet the Nazis painted him as their prophet. How'd this stick? Timing and distortion helped. After World War I, Germany was humiliated. Poor, angry, searching for pride. Nietzsche's bold language like, "Man is something to be overcome," hit a nerve. The Nazis used it in speeches and writings, like Alfred Rosenberg's The Myth of the 20th Century, to pump up their vision. Thinkers like Martin Heidegger, who briefly joined the Nazi Party in 1933, also flirted with tying Nietzsche to their cause, though he later backed off. Elizabeth's edits gave them ammo, raw, out-of-context quotes to plaster on their ideology. But Nietzsche would have loathed them. He broke with his friend Richard Wagner over anti-Semitism and Wagner's German hype. In letters, he called nationalism a disease. The Nazis were a herd, a mob, everything his philosophy opposed. Scholars like Walter Kaufmann, who studied Nietzsche post-war, say it's a complete misreading. The Nazis didn't care about truth. They wanted a mascot, and Nietzsche's dead voice got hijacked. Conclusion. That's Nietzsche's philosophy from Thus Spoke Zarathustra. God's dead, aim for the Übermensch, face eternal recurrence, tap your will to power, and reject old morality. The Nazis twisted it into something it's not. It's about personal freedom, not regimes. That's the breakdown. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more mind-expanding discussions on philosophy, psychology, and deep insights.